Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
I mean, they're very fit. They're physical. They're very handsy. If you draw on it, if you play in a crowd, they're going to take it from you. And they, they're a great defensive team. They, a lot of we had a lot of turnovers that are just dumb. Like just silly turnovers, just throwing the ball out of bounds off of outlet passes and stuff like that. I don't.
Chase for the 6th seed. Kind of how do you view it at this point?
Yeah, I view it as I viewed it at every single point. Just going to try to win the game, win as many games as we possibly can, let the chips fall where they may.
I love that. Just dumb turnovers.
Oh man, greatest basketball sitcom character going right now as far as
Finchy, man.
Life of Finchy.
So okay, we're gonna. This is Reckless Speculation Thursday for one, all across the Mackey and Judd show. So
Reckless Speculation.
To all of you who celebrate, happy Reckless Speculation Thursday. Our guy Darren Doogie Wolfson on vacation. So he's on vacation, but Reckless Speculation is not on vacation. So we will sprinkle in and dive into some, as Judd called it last night on a text thread, some freestyle or free form reckless speculation. We've got some theories and thoughts we want to throw out to the audience. But did I see correctly last night on the Wolves telecast? They have not won a game in Toronto since 2004.
Yeah, I think Jim Peterson referenced the fact that Gary Trent Jr.'s father, Gary Trent Sr., was a member of the Timberwolves the last time that they won a game in Toronto, and I think he was serious. I couldn't tell for sure, but I think he was serious.
2004. Yeah, they showed the highlights of the game, and it was like KG, and his MVP.
Would it look like
season.
Charlie Chaplin? Like quick moving pictures?
Black and white. It was a silent film.
Yeah.
So, and they just they had a 17-point lead and then wound up down by like 30 or whatever it was in the fourth quarter. So I need your guys' help. Like I am the lead Timberwolves Kool-Aid guzzler on the show here. And I understand that this is a wildly successful season by almost any measurement. They're like 10 wins beyond their Vegas projected win total. Everything is kind of gravy going forward. Cat has stepped up to another level. Ant looks like he's going to be a superstar. But I've got sort of a lingering, creeping death feeling all the time with this team. I can't shake 17 years of abuse from this team.
So, is this just set the scene? Is this anytime something goes wrong, you sort of start to internally panic and think the worst?
I start to freak out, breathe into a brown paper bag, and take shots of alcohol. Yeah. So I'm gonna do this.
Now on Mackey and Judd.
This chart makes it as clear as I can to you.
The pie chart of blame.
Okay.
You want to blame somebody?
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
This is actually a pie chart of panic. And it's just, it's for therapy purposes only, okay? I want to get this out of my system before the season's over so I can go into what's likely going to be a play-in game with clear eyes, open mind, open heart for the Timberwolves. Okay.
I feel you're fooling yourself though to a certain point by announcing that the pie chart of panic is going to clear out the bad. You can't get past it. Let's dive into the fact that this is only going to be you purging your angst for about a half hour before the angst returns, despite the fact that you paid for the full therapy session.
Okay, I mean, you might be right. It's very possible, but I need this. I was texting last night with my fellow Wolves fanatics.
This is a lot of work, Phil.
So all right,
a lot of work here going
on. It's not a pie chart of. It's kind of a pie chart of blame, but it's more of a pie chart of panic. These are things that I am concerned about right now, as the Wolves lose in horrible fashion last night. So 4 slices. Let's start with slice number 1. 30% of the pie chart of panic goes to D'Angelo Russell. So he goes 3 of 16 last night after the worst 4-game stretch of his season. So he had a couple bad games, and then I think it was like the third or it might have been the 4th game of that stretch where Chris Finch came out after the game. Somebody asked him, what do you got to do to get D'Lo going? And he said, well, we actually designed the game plan tonight specifically to get D'Lo going. It didn't get going. And so, okay, well, that was embarrassing. So 4-game stretch, 4 biggest games of the season. You got Dallas a couple times and the Suns. You're battling for the 6th seed, and he shoots like 30%, 15% from 3 and averages 10 points. That's okay. Let's snap out of it here. And he scores some points early, but he winds up going, like I said, 3 for 16, and then after the game says he's having confidence issues.
Yeah, he is.
So 30% to D'Lo, one of the highest paid players on the team, having confidence issues during the biggest 5-game stretch of the year.
Do you want to get through the whole thing first, or break these down as you go through them? Because I mean, the funny thing is, much like all of my sports patients, you are using the player as the shield for your own insecurities and problems with this team. D'Lo is, so do you know when you start to turn a corner in life and you might have new friends, or in this case, new players on your team, and you start to turn that corner, but as the corner gets turned more and more and more and things start to improve and there's an excellence that is perhaps maintained, that person was just a transitionary person. Like that friend was a transitionary friend, but that's not going to be, it turns out, really not part of the long-term plan, because you're climbing a ladder of excellence and you're on a rung.
Yeah, like your senior year of college drinking friends aren't the same friends you're going to have for the most part, like 10 or 15 years later. I mean, not all of them are going to be gone.
Or like,
but,
let's say you're ascending it. Yeah, who cares about them? Let's say you're ascending in the business world and you're starting to get successful, and you glum onto a person who you're like, at first, this person's great, really helpful, and they are for a time period. But your ascension continues, and they're going to stay where they are.
Yeah.
I think that might be D'Lo. Not to say he's not a very important part of what the 2021-22 Wolves are doing, because I think that ultimately he's done some really good things, and when he got hot, it was fun. Yeah. But I think that he might be part of a person you pass on your way up the ladder of success. I don't know he's going to be a permanent part there.
That's an interesting one. I guess I hadn't quite gone that far, but yeah,
because you're too close to it, Phil. See, I can take a step back. I'm the sports therapist. I'm paid well to observe from afar and not invest.
I mean, to your point, these are the biggest games of the year, and he's taking up almost 20% of your team's salary cap. And now, do I think he's going to bounce back at some point? Yes, I do. Like, I don't think he's just going to shoot 3 for 16, but he's, he goes through these stretches where it's like, dude, your bad games can't be Houdini acts. Like, you got to find a way in your bad games to do a bunch of other things to help the team. And oftentimes he's just like an anchor that weighs the boat down under the water surface. But, if you said, all right, take the team as currently constructed and replace D'Lo's $30+ million with another player who's better and makes around the same amount of money, or 2 players or whatever it is, like, yeah, that's an interesting concept to explore at some point. I think 2 things can be true. He is a huge part of the reason why this team has taken a big step, and in the biggest part of their season, he's one of the main reasons why they're not beating these teams. So, yeah. I don't know. Any other thoughts on D'Lo for me here? 30% of the...
I think when things are going bad, the question becomes this: what is he doing to still try and lift his team up? And I'm not sure I can tell you. I can even tell you, and look, it doesn't work, but I can tell you that when Ant's not shooting well, he's trying to think of different things to help. Not saying that it works, but he's still incredibly young. But it feels like when D'Lo starts to spiral, the spiral is complete. And that's not part of the ultimate winning DNA where you're going to be chasing championships.
Yeah, the confidence issue thing, too, it's like, I never would have expected that from him. He always seemed like just confidence on full blast all the time, even sometimes lack of self-awareness. But, it's like, dude, the lack of confidence thing is a little bit of a red flag.
I'm going to tell you right now, I think that's an act to try and fool himself.
Okay.
I think the confidence on full blast is an act that he is putting on, and I'm not saying this in a derogatory way, but some people are overly confident at times, and you're like, why are you doing that? And it turns out that they're insecure, and so they're trying to put off this I'm super confident vibe, which is just not true.
Yeah, and another thing here, so I guess some of this is in fairness to D'Lo, but it's also, this is the bed that he has been in the NBA. when times get tougher like this and, okay, you've reached a new level and now the expectations go up a little bit and the competition heats up and you're facing some of the best teams in the NBA and you're going on the road, what reference points are you pulling from in your career in the NBA, Cat included, Ant included, right? These guys haven't played in games like this. I mean, Cat kind of did 4 years ago, but that was such a he was kind of along for the ride, and it wasn't like his team. Hey, you got to figure out the answers here. It was more Jimmy Butler, Tom Thibodeau. So these guys have to figure out the answers to these math problems on the fly with very little or very few reference points. D'Lo had that one run where they went like 42-40 with the Nets a few years ago, but this is a lot of uncharted territory for them.
If I may again too, there's the old phrase. I mean, I feel like this is about you. Let's cut to the chase here. I feel like the old phrase "fake it till you make it" is true in some things, but in sports, I think that there's only so much faking it that can be actually done. The thing about Ant that I love is this: Ant wants it. He wants the steam. He wants the heat. He wants the fastball. He might fail, but he wants the smoke. But he wants it, right? Like, he wants it. And again, he might fail, but he's saying, give it to me.
Yeah.
Cat, I've had questions about, and D'Lo, I think, when the smoke really starts, doesn't really want it. And so, but you're building something here. You're building this thing up. You got to find out what fits and what does not. It's just a breath of fresh air. The team does not stink, so that's the nice thing.
And I think both the guys you referenced in Cat and D'Lo that are in question here, I think they want the smoke, but I think sometimes they underestimate how thick the smoke can be. It's like, no, guys, you're not just walking into Toronto here.
I like that.
I like that one. Thick smoke. It's thick smoke. Okay. All right. Pie chart of panic continues
The
here.
Rock knows how you feel about pie.
The second slice of pie is split 30%. It's split between two different players. The absence of Malik Beasley and Jaden McDaniels. All right, now Beasley is sort of day-to-day, like he should come back here at some point. McDaniels, high ankle sprain. They only have 6 games left in the regular season. I think we're finding out that McDaniels' versatility, his energy, length, defense, just everything. He's not their best player, but he's one of their most versatile players, and he helps with lineup combinations. He's just one of those dudes that gets hands in passing lanes and creates a couple turnovers here and there. And when you have to take his minutes out and then move other guys up the ladder, the team suffers. And then Beasley, I saw this note from our guy Dane Moore from the Dane Moore NBA podcast. So Beasley's only missed 3 games this season. The Wolves have lost those 3 games by 31, 22, and 23 points. Now, is some of that coincidence? Yeah, like is he like a 30-point swing player in games? No, not necessarily. But the last 2 months, he's been one of the best 3-point shooters in the NBA. And so you're taking away 2 guys who've been critical to your bench and starting lineup that average between the two 40, 50 minutes a night, and they're just gone during this key stretch. So getting those guys back is huge if you want to do anything in the play-in or the playoffs. Hopefully Beasley comes back ASAP. I don't know about Jaden McDaniels. I'm sort of panicking. Yeah.
The McDaniels loss to me is the bigger one because he brings a very quantifiable skill set in, and it's diverse and it's incredibly important. So that one, I think you definitely miss big time and need back. The Beasley one, of course, is centered around one thing, and that's consistency. If he can come in and knock down the shots, he's great, which he basically, I think, has, to your point, Phil, for the last 2 months. Before that, it was hit and miss. But again, I think this is all going through as well the growing phase here. And there are some guys, like Cat, who you would like to say, damn it, he's just there now. And sometimes he looks like he 1,000% is, and sometimes he does not. But I think that there's other elements of this team as it's being constructed, and it is a work in progress. Like, this is not done. That you have glaring deficiencies that are going to become obvious, especially this time of year against playoff-tested teams, that are going to be a problem. But the good thing, Phil Mackey, as you lay on the Wolves couch and consider your options in life, the good thing is this is a work in progress. And there is time now to look at things that are going well and conversely breaking down and actually circle back and say, okay, that didn't work. What do we need? What did we not do right? Where were we just flat out not constructed right?
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I think the McDaniels loss is really, really big because he gives you a known quantity, for the most part, off that bench consistently. And it's not just a snap of the fingers and replace it. Beasley, if he's going great, is fantastic. And if he's not, he will kill you. So
you're also without two very important things, right? Like McDaniels provides the defense, the length you need, and athleticism, where Beasley is that shot maker. So like you literally are without some key ice cold shot making from behind the arc in Beasley, and then some really nice defense in McDaniels. Like those are two big glaring issues that you're without now.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, depth has been a strength of this team when they've been healthy, and those guys being gone. I just looked it up too. They're averaging combined 51 minutes a night, so it's 51 minutes of those guys against some of the better teams.
And this also, gets back to D'Lo being absolutely terrible right now. Like if he was knocking down his shots, the Beasley thing would hurt a little bit, but it wouldn't kill you. It's killing you now.
Yep. So like you lose those guys, and then you're getting kind of a minus effort from D'Angelo Russell to go along with this. You're basically missing 3 players if you include D'Lo. So with all that, I feel like my Wolves' health is in question. So it's a good thing that the Mayo Clinic Men's Health Center in Minneapolis is accepting new patients.
They're right across the street. The Wolves can go practice and then go check up.
Well, maybe some of them should after the last few games. So Mayo Clinic will see men of all ages for vasectomy, infertility, ED, prostate, urinary conditions, cancer screenings, cancer treatment. They've got your back and your front. Request an appointment, menshealth.mayoclinic.org. That's menshealth.mayoclinic.org. Okay. Pie chart of panic here. This is very therapeutic as I talk through some of these feelings. Hopefully some of you Wolves fans, this is a safe space, okay? By the way, if you're a Wolves fan here, don't over-project and be like, you're just overreacting, okay? We're all kind of feeling this way a little bit right now. So the third slice of pie, 30% again, to Paul George, who we saw a couple nights ago.
See, now we're going to spend some time on this one.
He's one of the 15, maybe 10 best players in the NBA when he's healthy. And the Clippers are pretty locked into that 8th spot. They're not. In fact, they may be mathematically locked in at this point. I'm not 100% sure, but they're not going anywhere. Like if you don't catch one of the teams above you in the standings, which, by the way, you're not going to. I think the Wolves are 3 games back in the loss column now of 2 or 3 different teams. The Nuggets blew a lead last night, but then came back in the fourth quarter against the Pacers and won. So even if the Wolves win their final 6 games, they would need one of those other teams, the Nuggets most likely, to train wreck their way to the finish line. So you're going to have to face a Clippers team that's already competitive. Like they're already, a 500 team mostly without Paul George. And now they have Paul George. So excuse me if a wave of moderate anxiety comes over me when I think about that play-in game.
All right. Now we've got some real work. This is where the real work begins, because previously you were talking about things that went bang in the night and actually should have scared you. This one you can't control. You are now projecting outwards.
Well, I can't control really any of it. I can't control D'Lo going 3 of 16 either.
No, but it's your team. What I'm saying is now you're projecting outward. You're projecting to Los Angeles. And the fact is, you cannot control the fact that Paul George is coming back. And guess what? The Clippers might beat the Wolves. The Wolves might lose twice. The Wolves might not get it out of the play-in round. You need to confront that. You need to confront the reality that while they probably will, there are no guarantees. But you certainly have no control over what is going to take place with different teams. You need D'Lo to find himself, which is very possible. Malik Beasley could come back, very possible. The rest of the things are at least things that are happening internally with the Timberwolves. Paul George thing, you know what? You got to let it go. You got to let the chips fall where they may for opposing teams. And if they get guys back and happen to kick your ass, they do. But the question is, what is your team learning about itself so it can come back stronger as it continues its climb up the ladder of success. A long time since they've been going up those rungs potentially for next season, Phil.
I don't want this team to learn that about meltdowns. That's what I'm saying. I don't want. Now, ultimately, if they melt down, then it wasn't meant to be, and changes need to be made. But this is a Clippers team. Now, granted, they had Kawhi Leonard healthy for half of their playoff run last year, whatever it was. But this is a team that went to Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals last year, and Paul George is their best player.
So what quantifies a meltdown, though? Like if the Clippers...
Like losing in the play-in and not making the playoffs.
But they might come in with Paul George and just beat you.
Yeah, that would be
flat out beat you.
That would
That's
be
what he's saying.
That would be a meltdown.
No, but I think of a meltdown. No, right. No.
Well,
This
I'll get to part 2 of a potential meltdown in my fourth slice.
A meltdown is they have a 25-point lead at home and the Clippers come back. If the Clippers come in with
we've
Paul
seen
George,
that show.
Yes, we have, and that's a meltdown. But what I'm saying is, be careful how you use the term melt. You see, you're throwing out these terms.
Just getting out of my system.
This is what's no, but it's not. But it's not healthy how you're thinking about this. You're doing yourself a disservice, young basketball fan. What if the Clippers have Paul George back and they're really good and they come in and beat you? They beat you. That's not a meltdown.
Okay,
that's something.
Well, then let me get to my fourth slice.
All right.
Let me get to my fourth slice.
And by the way, the clock is ticking here. My therapy sessions. This is not cheap. Your insurance goes for a very short time now. And
that's okay. I bought Wolves stock when they drafted Johnny Flynn, and so my Wolves equity is high. I can pay for it in Wolves stock.
Boy, do you need help.
10%. My final 10%. My pie chart of panic goes to the New Orleans Pelicans. And you might ask, what? The Pelicans? What are you talking about? Why would you care about the Pelicans? Well, the Pelicans are the second team that you would likely play in a play-in game, assuming that LeBron James' ankle is effed. And I think the Pelicans would beat either the Lakers, maybe even with LeBron James, and I think they'd beat the Spurs. So the Pelicans would, if you lose to the Clippers and Paul George, you would likely face the Pelicans in the second play-in game, all right? The Pelicans started 3-16. And we all wrote them off because they don't have Zion. I think they might have beat the Wolves in there somewhere early, too, to make it feel even worse. How'd the Wolves lose to a 3-16 Pelicans team? Well, since that start, the Pelicans are 30-27. They just beat the Blazers last night, CJ McCollum making his return to the arena. They've got wins since acquiring CJ McCollum over the Suns, Jazz, Raptors, and Bulls. I know their record looks bad because they're still 10 games below 500 or whatever it is, trying to dig out from that 3-16 hole. But the Pelicans are a feisty, competitive team, and they have beat some of the best teams in the NBA since acquiring C.J. McCollum. Okay, that completes my pie chart of panic. Just want to flush it all out of my system.
So
These are the things I am thinking about, having followed Timberwolves basketball for 30 plus years.
So what's your threshold for not panicking, just if they make the playoffs themselves?
If they get to a playoff series, I'm good. I know I said that everything beyond this point is gravy. I should preface by saying, get to the actual playoffs.
Yeah, see,
and then everything is gravy.
This is where the breakthrough has come in. Because you were lying to yourself. You were doing the D'Angelo Russell, fake it till you make it, and now you're falling apart because the New Orleans Pelicans and the Clippers with Paul George are keeping you up at night because they might stand in the way of this godforsaken franchise not actually qualifying for the playoff tournament.
No, you're probably right about that.
You got to take those last two things out. You can't. You can't.
Those
you
are
can't
two of the biggest things.
Right, but if they happen, they happen. If they lose to the Clippers with Paul George, I won't be surprised.
The Clippers with Paul George are probably better than the Timberwolves.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. So if they play them in that first game at home and lose, because so to circle back to your very point, I will use your own words against you in the argument that it would be a meltdown if they lost to the Clippers. So in that game against Paul George, what are the overall reference points the Wolves have?
They don't have any.
Exactly. That's
how are you making me feel better? Oh,
that's why it's not, because accepted.
So
I'm not
okay. So you're
I'm
saying
not a highly paid sports therapist to make you feel better.
So you're saying you're using my ethos against me, because what I often say on the show is the gap between expectation and reality is where your angst lies. That if you expect this thing up here, but the reality is it's actually down here, then now that's on you.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess if you look at it through that prism, that the Clippers, who have been to the Western Conference Finals, the Western Conference semis 2 years ago, they flirted with 50 wins each of the last 3 seasons until this year. Okay. Yeah, they probably should lose that game. And I'll be pleasantly surprised if they win.
Right, exactly. Okay. The unexpected success. But, I mean, they also need, in defense of the Wolves, they also need reference points themselves. The reference point is what will help them eventually probably flush D'Angelo Russell off the roster.
Boy, that'll be a juicy conversation. I don't think that happens this offseason. But
I don't either. But what I'm saying is those reference
But, like,
points,
imagine Damian Lillard in that spot instead of D'Angelo Russell.
I'm just saying, once you get the reference points, you realize who can keep up with the game and who struggles to.
It's time to play the game. That's right. I just put Damian Lillard on this team for next year.
Okay, so your bill won't be cheap. Who's your insurance company?
My insurance company. It's funny you ask. It's Federated Mutual Insurance Company. And because I am a business, they insure me. I'm not individual Phil. I am media mogul.
God knows you need it.
Yeah. Media mogul Phil. So you can find a full list of industries on federatedinsurance.com to find out what they specialize in, if it matches up with your business's industry. And you can help. By the way, they also have been a partner of the Timberwolves for a long, long time. So you want to support us, support the Timberwolves, etc. Federated is the place to go. Federatedinsurance.com, and remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours.
It is Reckless Speculation Thursday, and you threw out a D'Angelo Russell trade. So can I throw out a reckless speculation trade idea involving D'Angelo Russell?
Oh my!
Can I do that?
No, that's irresponsible.
Objection.
Where'd you get this?
How about reckless trade speculation?
I love Jim Ross.
I love how we're just like on the doorstep of the playoffs, and we're just trading D'Angelo Russell right now.
We're trading him. We're trading. Came up with
3 of 16, dude. What are you doing?
It was awful.
Come on,
it was awful.
Yeah.
Get it together.
I was watching the Bricks yesterday too, and then I came up with this trade idea, watching Toronto. So how about this potential trade idea with the Toronto Raptors? D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt, and a first-round pick to Toronto.
Oh my God! For Vince Carter in his prime?
Yeah, I wish. Honestly, I wish that'd be
prime
amazing.
Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter.
A little Steve Francis. That'd be phenomenal. I love all that.
Maryland, man, he's good.
Did he play? Steve Francis play for the Raptors?
Yeah, didn't he? He went
Played
from
for Houston,
the McGrady.
I think the Raptors.
Oh, did it go?
He was Rockets for sure.
Yes, he
Rockets,
was.
because the McGrady Francis trade. I thought wasn't that was the trade, right? Was he in Houston? Was in Toronto? Anyway,
how old were you? You were like peeing your pants.
I remember. All right. So anyway, D'Lo, Vanderbilt, and a first-round pick to Toronto, and in return, Finchy gets.
Oh, I thought you were trading Finchy.
No. And Finchy gets his boy Pascal Siakam.
Wow, that's
the Wolves.
Wow.
With one of the smallest teams in the NBA, get a big man in Pascal Siakam who hits plenty of shots from everywhere.
Dude, he's a badass.
And also, the Wolves would still be under the salary cap. This trade, money-wise, is just about dead even. It's like $300,000 off if you include D'Lo and Vanderbilt for Pascal Siakam. And then it also still gives Toronto an expiring contract in D'Lo. They get even more significantly underneath the salary cap. And the Wolves get a legitimate guy to pair with Cat and Pascal Siakam, 2 big dudes hitting shots from wherever they want. And then you have to find a new point guard. But I think you can figure that out.
Jalen Noel gets a little bit. I think Jalen Noel has a chance to get more minutes. This is interesting.
Spicy P.
Okay, so this sounds insane and crazy because it's Reckless Speculation Thursday.
Yeah,
but a couple things down here. There were rumors during the offseason last year that Toronto was because Toronto, they won that title a few years ago, but then they lost Kyle Lowry and they're competitive, but they're a little bit in that no man's land in the NBA where you're not as good as like the 4 best teams in the Eastern Conference. You're feisty, but where are you going? And Pascal Siakam's name popped up in trade discussions that maybe they'd look to cash in on the rest of his contract. So he has 2 years left on his contract 2022-23, and then 2023-24 at $33 and $35 million. It's around the money that D'Angelo Russell makes. That's a boy. So they would get they would essentially be admitting, hey, we're kind of going into a reset here, expiring contract, and I don't know, looking to get younger or something. Even though Pascal Siakam's only like 28 years old, if I'm the Timberwolves, love this. Now Jared Vanderbilt's almost tougher to give up than D'Angelo Russell because he's more cost efficient. He's versatile. He can defend multiple positions. I think in a perfect world, he would come off your bench as like a feisty 25 minutes a game guy.
Yes, I agree with that.
But man, like a front court of Pascal Siakam and Karl Anthony Towns, oh my God, that would be devastating. Interesting.
And Declan's right; they need that.
Interesting.
So Phil,
Speculation.
if you could wave a magic wand this summer and add one big name to this team, what position would that be at?
Oh boy, they need a big man. They need. I know that there was a couple nights ago. Excuse me. Against DeAndre Ayton, I think they actually out-rebounded the Suns by 1 rebound in that game. But there were so many. And now DeAndre Ayton makes almost every team look small because he's a brick house.
Right.
But when you watch some of these teams and the rebounds and the possessions that they can keep alive when Cat's off the court, like Vando is a high-energy guy, and I love having him out there, and he can rebound a little bit too. But like when Cat's out of the game, who's defending in the paint and who's it?
Well,
not that Cat's like Hakeem Olajuwon in his prime as a defender either, but they don't have any. Yeah, and Naz Reid
he's blocked shots, but
but not even like at a high level. Like they need someone in there who can just, who is their Robert Williams? Who is their? I'm listing some of the best defensive bigs in the game here, but like who's your Rudy Gobert? Like or your diet version of that. Your diet Tyson Chandler from 15 years ago. Like you need a guy like that. And they don't really have one right now. Now, if you're asking I would love to see if I'm going to have sort of a combo guard making $30+ million and have a high usage rate like D'Angelo Russell, I'm going to need some more production in some of the biggest games. So this is a really interesting stretch here. I'm not writing him off yet, but like these games weigh and matter more than the games 2 months ago for what you're trying to accomplish. You're trying to ramp up and play your best basketball at the right time, and you're facing some of the best teams in the NBA. And if you're unable to rise up to that moment, I think it says something. I think some of it's luck and timing, and sometimes your shot just doesn't fall.
I agree.
But I think some of it matters. So to me, D'Lo's going to sort of show, do you belong with this thing long term or not in the next 3 weeks or so?
The biggest reason why I want this team to get through the play-in round and make the actual playoffs is because I want to see Cat in that setting now. One, I think it's valuable. Mm-hmm. Two, I just want to see it. The Rockets thing. So I think that we were pretty careful not to rip him too much because that team was sort of a weird team, and that was his first playoff experience. And so while the TNT guys were completely bagging on Cat, I didn't think that was completely fair at the time. Yeah. But I really want to see him now in that setting because I don't think he's wired like Ant. I think Ant is wired correctly. I think Ant's like, let's go. And he might fail, but he's like, let's go. Cat, I think, has some question marks and tries to talk himself into being confident at times. But that doesn't mean he's going to fail. And I really want to see this team put in a setting where there's pressure, criticism, because Phil, these guys, the TNT stuff, they all know exactly, misguided or not, what those guys are saying, right? Mm-hmm. Like they listen to it and they react to it. And it sounds stupid, but that's important because that's how much can you overcome what's being said about you to say, I don't care, I'm still going to be successful.
I think he's going to show out. I think.
I hope he does.
I love what he's saying recently too. Like somebody asked him yesterday about, hey, you think you can make second team All NBA or whatever? And he's like, because there's some there's some big money attached to that, I believe, for his next contract if he can make All NBA
There is.
or for his next season or whatever it is.
Yes, correct.
And he's like, I mean, I feel like I've been putting up numbers and maybe doing some things that I haven't been acknowledged for previously, and I just don't even care about any of it anymore. I just want to win. And I don't think I think sometimes Cat has said things in the past just to I think this is what people want to hear.
Right.
Kirk Cousins does that sometimes too. But what are you actually doing to impact winning? Are you doing all the right things? And he's been doing a lot more of the right things, I think, this year.
Yes.
So I actually don't have a lot of questions about whether I don't think you're going to see a 2 for 11 performance from Cat against the Clippers in a play-in game. I think he's going to play well.
I hope you're right.
We'll see. Old tweets exposed if he doesn't.
I hope you're correct. I'm
So,
not
well,
convinced yet.
thank you guys. I think that was Declan. Dude. There's going to be some legit major speculation about this team in the offseason because I don't think they're just, especially Mark Lowry. I don't think they're going to be satisfied just running the roster back necessarily. So I wouldn't be shocked if you hear some names pop up.